What I wanted to do with this new setup, I wanted to have the ability to create power charges if I'm fighting a boss or clearing, and I wanted to do that without switching gems. You're clearing, but then you get to a boss, now you have to swap out this gem and this support gem and, you know, slot it back in. I really didn't like doing that. So we've created something where you're gonna have best of all worlds, essentially. Now, when it comes to the previous video that I uploaded, which was with the resonance, right, which is this beauty right here, which does gain power charges instead of frenzy charges, we have also made an update to this build to make it feel even more consistent and more effective. And I'm going to break down that change as well. But first, I'm going to show you guys this new method and how I get power charges. Then we're going to break down the gems, the skills, and after, I'm going to show you all of this in action as well. So let's get right into it. And if you guys do enjoy the video, and only if you do, slap a like, sub to the channel, as it really does help me out a lot. So imagine this, you're going into a boss fight and you have no power charges, right? So with one click of a button, you are gonna summon these guys right here, then use Profane just as quickly as that, and boom, you're gonna have full charges. And this is all gonna be happening without you needing to change any gems whatsoever. And on top of this, power charges are not going to be an issue for clears as well. Now, the cool thing about this method right here is that you can do this mid-boss fight if need be, right? So for example, you mess up your rotation, you don't have your power charges anymore, you only have your charge staff, you can literally just move around a little bit, summon these guys, quickly do this, boom, roll away, you're good to go. You're back in the fight just like that. You're hitting the boss, you drop the bell. So how is all of this going to be working? We're going to need a second weapon. In this case, it's going to be the Rattling Scepter, which on its own summons 2 warriors. Now, the reason we are using the Skeletal Warrior is that I want to have at least 4 or 5 of these warriors when I'm summoning. The reason that you want to do this is that if you're fighting a boss and you're going to need these charges mid-boss fight, having them pop up in one summon and then just getting your full charges in one go is what you're looking for. Because you don't want to be like, if you only have like 2 warriors, you're going to use Profane once, for example, then you have to resummon them again, then do it again, then you have to resummon again. You guys get the point. It takes too long and a lot of things can go wrong during a boss fight. So that is why I like to have more than enough warriors here to get everything in one go, right? So for example, if I'm in a boss fight, once again, I summon these guys and this is much faster this way, right? Boom, I'm not worried about it. I move away. I don't have to resummon them all the time and I already have full charges. So we are going to be utilizing skeletal warriors, and the way you're going to do this is that you're going to tie the skeletal warriors only to the second weapon. When you press this arrow here, you will have an option to do that. It says 1 here, and we have 0 on 1, which means that when we're using our main weapon setup, we are not going to have any warriors summoned. However, when I switch to my second weapon set, it summons 4 of them. And as I said, the scepter itself already summons 2, right? Take a look at this, boom. And then we're adding 4 more, and that is just perfect for our overall setup. We are also going to need Minion Sacrifice. This is what makes all of this possible for the Profane to proc. We are going to be using both Profane Ritual and Reaper's Invocation with another Profane Ritual. Now, this version, the Reaper's Invocation, is going to be there for us to get charges as we're flickering around the map. If you're clearing, doing breaches, whatever kind of map activity you're going to be doing, that's when you're going to be using Reaper's Invocation. So on the Profane Ritual, we are going to be using Unleash, and that is mandatory because that is what makes it possible to get our charges faster. You guys see that 3 of them die right away, right? Boom. So very quickly, we have full charges. Then we also have Arcane Tempo. Skills have 25% more cast speed and mobility. This makes it easier for you to move around when you're casting your Profane. On Reaper's Invocation, it's going to be Profane Ritual, then Impetus to get more energy, and Profusion. Once again, Profusion can be moved around. That's going to be completely up to you. However, there is one more thing you can swap out here, depending on your playstyle, right? So the more options, the better. And the goal of this video is exactly that. I want to give you guys as many options as possible. And that option is going to be Lingering instead of Reaper's Invocation. This one's going to be completely up to you. You can swap this out and slap on Lingering instead. And now, if you don't want to focus on, just getting your charges from Reaper's Invocation, you can just roll around in those crazy situations when you're fighting in breaches or maps, and you're going to be getting charges from your lingering instead of Reapers. Once again, completely up to you. And obviously, it's very cool because it's automated as well. As soon as you get rid of these guys and you get your power charges, all you got to do is just use your normal attack and everything just switches back to normal, right? So it's pretty easy, very simple, and once again, very effective. One thing you need to know is that you are going to need a unset ring to get an extra additional skill slot. Now, going forward, I am going to trade my second ring also for another unset ring. So that means I'm going to get one more additional skill slot. And that slot is going to be for Grim. I just want more survivability. If you already have 2 unset rings, go ahead and slot in Grim. It always comes in handy. There is some changes that we've made to the other gemstones as well. Take a look. On Quarterstaff, we have Martial Tempo, Electrocute, Practiced Combo, Super Critical, and we moved Rage over here. And the reason I did that is the only change we did to Flicker Strike is that we moved Inevitable Critical to Flicker Strike, and the DPS went up by around 13k, which is very cool and very helpful when you're fighting bosses and trying to melt them as well. So the rest is Perpetual Charge, Close Combat, Momentum, Inevitable Critical as mentioned, and Concentrated Effect. Then on Tempest Bell, we have Font of Rage, Heavy Swing, Overpower, Inspiration, and Hourglass. For the Wind Dancer, everything stays the same. Wind Wave, Lockdown, and Pin. On Charge Staff, it's going to be Overcharge, Conduction, Primal Armament. Supported skills deal 25% more weapon elemental damage, then Persistence and Cold Exposure as well. I'm gonna hover over the Heralds as well, but essentially everything on the Heralds stayed the same. I didn't move around these at all. This combo overall is just really, really strong, right? You can't go wrong with it. The clears with this build is super strong. The only thing that can mess you up is the ailment threshold when the maps have it like at around 90% or higher. That can be a problem. And obviously elemental resistances. But if you manage to avoid those 2 things on the maps, you're never going to have a problem with this build. Skeletal Warrior, we already talked about this. And Sacrifice. Now, one thing I will mention, you want to have Skeletal Warrior on a higher level to make the spirit cost low. And speaking of spirit, we are at 237. And I know that a lot of people are going to be asking this. So, Pip, how do you get that spirit? It comes from your chest piece. The better chest piece you have, it is tied to your ascension. So now I'm going to quickly show all of this in action. Then we're going to go over the changes we made to the resonance version of the build. And then it's going to be gear and the passive skill tree as well. Now, guys, remember, once again, if you're struggling with your survivability before you get your second unset ring, slap on Grim instead of Reaper's Invocation, right? So let's take a look. We're going to summon our minions, get everything ready to go. So simple. I'm very happy that this actually works so well. We're going to start it up. Hopefully we get a bunch of enemies. So our Flicker puts in some work. Remember to use your Reapers as you're moving through. And Flicker is going to do the rest, right? Always remember to use the Reaper's Invocation. Always. As you guys see, we're charging it up as we're moving. And you can always use the normal Profane as well. This is why you do want to use Grim in the long run, right? Like as soon as you get that second ring, just go for Grim right away. Because the survivability is just 100% going to be better, right? It really is. Now, there is another thing you can do here. We already have full charges. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of enemies and Flicker is destroying everything here. So we do have a boss, which is cool. I think he's over here. We're going to drop the bell. Absolutely destroyed. Flicker's still going there. Rock Reapers just in case. Get our charges. Woo, beautiful. Now, before we move on, let's take a look at a tier 4 Xesh boss fight. Now, in this one, what I did was I tried to showcase to the best of my ability how all of this works. So I'm not going to try to kill him right away. Instead, I'm going to try to move away from him and try to get my charges mid-boss fight, right? I wanted to showcase this to show you guys that this is absolutely possible. At the beginning, we're going to get our minions here. We're going to get all our charges ready to go. And essentially, we're ready, right? We got full charge staff. We got our 6 charges. Now you see that I dropped my bell on the boss. We got our mana back. We are flickering. Damage is pretty good here. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is that the damage in this specific clip is not going to be as high as normal because I had switched out some gems. You can do way more damage than this to him, by the way, right? But you guys already know this. We've seen those in the previous videos as well. Now let's see. Now you will see that I move away from him. And in this case, I'm going to need charges, right? Boom. You pop up those minions mid-fight, not a problem. And you have your 6 charges right away. That is what I like about the setup so much more compared to the resonance setup. The ability to do that mid-fight is incredible, especially against like top tier bosses, because this is where we get our most damage from, like having our full charges with flicker. So once again, we have our full charges. What is this, like 30%, 35% left? Let's see what happens. We drop the bell, we flicker, and you know, he just gets absolutely destroyed. Now let's take a look at the passive skill tree. So we are going to be using Lead Me Through Grace. This is how we get spirit on our class. Gain 1 spirit for every 6 energy shield on equipped body armor. Gain 1 spirit for every 15 evasion rating on equipped body armor. Cannot gain spirit from equipment. So you want your chest piece to have as much shield, as much evasion as possible. That is literally the only source we have for spirit. Currently, I'm also using Sunder my enemies, and then we have I am the Thunder and I am the Blizzard. Most of the things on the passive skill tree, guys, are the same from the previous build, apart from the fact that we are not using resonance with this one because we are not getting our power charges instead of frenzy charges, right? So the skill tree is very similar. I would say like 95, 97%. It's essentially the same. We still have all of these crit nodes over here. Nothing changed for the quarterstaff as well. We're just using all of the nodes that we normally did. On this side, everything is the same. As said, once again, very similar to our previous build. The main changes were in the skill gems and the resonance here. Now, speaking of resonance, the previous video that I uploaded, we were getting power charges instead of frenzy charges. And when it comes to clearing, that is always gonna feel much more consistent than any other build for the monk. And the reason for that is you literally just have to kill stuff and you're consistently getting charges, right? The problem with that build is it's not as consistent as this build when it comes to bossing. So that's where you got to make the decision. Which one do you want? Like, which one is better? Let's now go over the resonance version of the build that was in the previous video. And if you guys do enjoy that version of the build more, I'm going to show you guys small changes that we made to the skill gems that will make the build overall just much better. So I'm going to activate resonance just like that. And now we are getting our power charges from frenzy charges, right? And in our previous video, we were using Sniper's Mark. However, what we're going to do now is we're going to add all of this to Hand of Chayula. Dash to an enemy and strike them with an unarmed attack, applying socketed curses and marks with reduced effect. So what we're going to do here is we're going to slot in Sniper's Mark. And after this, you're going to have 2 options. You can use Vulnerability or Enfeeble. Currently, we're just going to slot in Vulnerability in here. And now, instead of just applying the Sniper's Mark, we're also debuffing the boss. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to hit him with the Hand of Chayula. Then we're going to hit him with our normal hits. That's going to proc and give us power charges as we land a crit shot. Then we're going to drop a Tempest Bell on him, and then we're going to flicker. Unless he dies before that. But, you know, that's the rotation in general. So let's get it going. Hit him. Boom. Gets marked up. All the debuffs. We got the charge. Now remember, you can do this again if you want more charges. Just like that. And now we have more charges. Drop the bell, right? And then we flicker. And he gets absolutely destroyed. This build is really strong too, right? It all depends on what you're looking for. So I would say that if you're looking for a more clear focused build where you don't have to think about anything in terms of clearing, then the resonance version of the build, the one that I'm currently using with the Hand of Chayula, is going to be for you. And then when you get to bosses, this is what you're going to be doing. However, if you want to be ready for any boss fight, no matter what environment you're in, and have your full power charges at all time, and even be able to get full power charges mid-fight, then the minion version that I created where you don't have to change your gems, nothing, that one's going to be for you. I'm going to quickly show you guys my resistances just in case. So we have capped out everything. We are at 79% evasion right now. Obviously, as you're going to level up, you can invest more points into some evasion and shield. Our shield is at around 3,900, which is more than enough, especially if you're running Grim. And now let's quickly take a look at the gear and you guys are good to go. I'm just going to hover over everything here. We still have our Crackling Quarterstaff with 36% critical damage bonus. Once again, all of this is going to be in the description when you go to the link on Mobalytics and you can see everything for yourself. Then we have the helmet, evasion, maximum energy shield. The amulet is something that I swapped out that I forgot about, by the way. Now we have +2 to level of all melee skills here and a bunch of strength and dexterity in combination with intelligence. That made it actually much easier for me to move around the points and made it possible for me to equip a lot of the gems that I couldn't equip before this. Now, the biggest change for the build in terms of gear is going to be the rings. We're trying to get 2 unset rings. That is the goal of this build, guys. You want to have 2 unset rings. And because it's so challenging on this class to get power charges very effectively, having 2 unset rings opens up way more doors to create a very tanky, high DPS build that doesn't struggle with power charges. On the rings, you're looking for lightning damage to attacks, increased lightning damage, and then some resistances depending on which one you're missing. If you can get some rarity, that's even better. Then this is the chest piece. This is a beautiful piece, right? We have over 1,000 evasion rating, which is more than enough for me at the moment. Obviously, if you can get higher, go for it. You're going to have more spirit. A lot of energy shield here. I wish I had better resistances on my chest piece, but the prices are crazy right now. You can't really get anything that is actually really strong, less than like 10, 20, 30 divines. Here's the second ring that we got to swap out for an unset ring. We're using Hand of Wisdom in combination with the Ingenuity belt. And here are the boots, 35% movement speed. I wish there was something like 50%. You know, I want to zoom around the map, but right now this will do. Okay, I think I covered everything and gave you guys a bunch of options. I will be making a separate video just talking about power charges and frenzy charges and all that. So you guys, and in that one, I'm going to try to answer all of your questions and give you guys the best of the best options. And that way, hopefully, you know, you can use those techniques on other classes as well, which can come in handy because there's a bunch of things that you can actually do. It's just finding the perfect combinations. For me personally, I really like the minion one that I've created where I just press one button, they pop up, and then, you know, I get full charges. I really like that. I feel like having the ability to have your power charges at any time is perfect, especially when it comes to boss fights. If you guys did enjoy this video, slap a like, sub to the channel. I got more content coming up for POE2. Once again, thank you so much for all the love and support. Stay positive, stay disciplined, and I'll see you all on the next one.